I've always kind of had a love-hate relationship with that play. I've had a kind of we studied it in school, and we did this thing in grad school where in the second year of grad school we would take one Shakespeare play and go line by line throughout the whole thing. The directors in our class were Jews, and I don't say Jewish because people aren't ish anything. They are Jews, or they're not Arabish, they're not Indianish, they're not Jewish. So I have a good friend who says that, and he says, I'm not Jewish, I'm a Jew. The directors had major issues, but a lot of it was we jumped into that play because of the issues and because it was problematic. And to look at one of Shakespeare's really flawed plays, yet really beautiful plays at the same time. There were, within the darkness, it really offered up an interesting look at humanity. I wanted to deconstruct it, to use a word from the 80s and the 90s, I suppose, academic word, but and bring it into the modern era. And let's look at it, because I find it unconscionable to do this play without a panel every time in major theaters, but they do it. They do it without a thought, and I don't know how people sit through it. I sit through this play and have a knot in my stomach, and I'm not a Jew, and I still feel the knot. So I wanted to explore what it would feel like to personalize it a little bit more, bring it into my context a little bit, the things that I see. Not that anybody's plight is not my plight too. I really believe that that's what we should be doing. I wanted to look at what's happening in the world, and particularly to Muslims, and in context. And so I made the context something a little more exotic to Americans, something that they don't think about very much, which is the whole Hindu-Muslim issue that goes on. Explore it and see what comes out of it. And so that personalizing of it allowed me to also then bring in a lot of my own history, which is born in India, Bombay, raised in Kenya, Mombasa, little town, and then the rest of my growing up here in the United States. I began writing this play, at least the first draft of it was before 9/11. 9/11 has influenced it a little bit. In fact, when the first production, not production, but the first workshop of it at the Lark in New York happened was 2 months after 9/11. And I'd never had experiences like I'd had. I had rocks thrown at me walking down a street in Metuchen at night. It was wild. I never had that experience in New York, and here it was. And here's my play, which is a bit incendiary in that possibly incendiary play, in that it really looks at these relationships and what make people hate. What I did with the play was I pulled out all the language, kept the storyline, and then used the events to tell the story, but now from a modern point of view and from this Los Angeles, very particular Los Angeles point of view, because the original commission for the play was for a thing called LA Visions, LA Voices, which asked playwrights to situate plays in very specific locales in Los Angeles and write from that place. So I set it on Venice Boulevard, and the cross was Clarendon, which is in an area called Culver City in LA. And it's amazing, one of the densest populations of what is now America, which is everything from Thai restaurants to Hindu temples to a mosque to Sony studios. The minute you put a box around something and say, okay, I mean the stage is a box, right? Here, put a frame on it. Now we have parameters. So another parameter I love is the notion of language and how to achieve language. So now if I have the I am, and the pentameter to deal with, or tetrameter at certain times, the way the language comes out is unique, and it forces your brain to work in a particular way. And what I love about it is it's how Indians talk, or South Asians talk. They have a kind of old British influence in their English. So it seemed to make a lot of sense that to locate an Elizabethan play within the South Asian diasporic experience. So first the challenges are about just sitting there and writing. The biggest challenge being that blank screen, and doing everything you can to avoid writing. The house was never cleaner when I had to write, because I knew that I couldn't write until the cupboard was clean. The first part of it was not a problem. It was just about getting it out. I think I was very interested in being raised a Hindu, although I call myself an autodidact when it comes to religion. I've been always interested in all the religions and looking at how they've both served mankind and hindered mankind. I really wanted to explore these two men, you know, Devendra, originally would be the Antonio character, and Shahrukh, who would have been the Shylock character, and seeing what it is that drives them against each other. And often, is it really them, or are they sort of living up to some sort of pact, some sort of communal pact? And this is where the word, I imagine, communalism comes from. Being raised a Hindu, I felt that I had to particularly pay attention to the Muslim side of it. And I didn't even want to look at it as a side, because ultimately in this play is, after I wrote it, I realized I knew this play couldn't be about mercy, because that's what's famous about Shakespeare's play, Portia's speech about mercy. My play is not about mercy, because nobody can endow mercy. Silk Road immediately is very, very specific in that the writer, it is a writer-based company. The writer has to be of the background of being of the Silk Road, and the protagonist needs to be of the Silk Road.